Hello Rebel and welcome back to my life. As I mentioned in previous videos, I had many interesting conversations with my friends at NerdCon Stories. What I want to share with you today concerns the concept of responsibility. I think my personal view on responsibility is one of the reasons that I am as happy as I am, and I am generally a pretty happy guy, even when things in life aren't the greatest. The first and most important part of my belief is that responsibility and blame are two completely separate things and that it is unhealthy to conflate them. Responsibility is an entirely forward-thinking, future-thinking concept. It is saying what you or somebody will do in the future. Blame is an entirely backward-thinking, past-focused concept. It is saying that somebody was wrong for doing something in the past. Guilt is actually another thing entirely. We need a legal definition of guilt for instances where punishment or reparations are necessary. Not that reparations are likely to ever happen in this country, but that's another rant for another time. But the key to this is that accepting responsibility for something doesn't mean accepting the blame for it. You can accept responsibility going forward in the future without blaming yourself for what happened in the past. This can be tricky, it can sound weird, but when somebody is asked to take responsibility, they often hear that as accepting blame. This is one reason white people have trouble taking responsibility for slavery and racism, and why men have trouble taking responsibility for sexism and misogyny. They think they're being blamed for all of the terrible things that have been done and are being done to women and or people of color. The truth is, no one is saying I am to blame for slavery, but I can take responsibility for the long-lasting effects of slavery, which are still very much present and still very much affect the lives of, living Americans right now. As for blame, it is completely useless. I don't know of a single situation where blame benefits anybody whatsoever. It does no good to blame yourself for something that happened to you, and actually, it does no good to blame yourself for something that you did. It does benefit you and others to take responsibility for improving things in the future and making sure bad things don't continue to happen. But this is not the same as blaming yourself for something that has occurred in the past, especially if something was done to you. And once again, guilt is a completely different concept from both of these things, and it's just something that we need in order for a societal justice system to exist. Now, I personally find this concept of responsibility empowering. If I do something harmful, I can take responsibility to A, ensure I don't do it again in the future, and B, repair the damage I've already done. That is very important. And if somebody does something harmful to me, I can take responsibility to ensure that harmful situation doesn't happen again in the future and maybe avoid the harmful person entirely. And I can do this without taking some self-degrading attitude that I am to blame or it was my fault, because again, blame is not responsibility. Another interesting facet of this concept of responsibility is that two people can take 100% responsibility for the same thing. This is philosophy, not math, right? So I can take 100% responsibility for a situation and somebody else can also take 100% responsibility for that same situation. It is not a zero-sum game. I had a friend say to me recently that they don't like when I try to take responsibility for a situation because they feel it robs them of their own agency. And my answer was that they were free to also take responsibility and there didn't have to be a conflict there. I was just definitely going to do my part to ensure that the non-optimal situation didn't occur again in the future, and they were free to do the same thing. And one of my favorite things about all this is it's one of those philosophies that doesn't actually require anybody else's participation or belief in order to work. Like science, it kind of works for you whether or not anyone else believes in it. And in such a diverse world with such diverse points of view, I think that's really a #1 requirement for any philosophy of life. And that's all I have for you today, Rebel. I hope you found it interesting. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, so feel free to drop them in a comment below. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you on Friday when I think we're going to talk about narcissism. That ought to be fun. Okay, bye!